Hi, I'm Joseph Feraldi. I want to thank you for joining us here at Bayside Chapel online. Our prayer is that today's service will be a blessing to you, that will encourage you in your journey with Jesus Christ, and it will help you to see all that God has in store for you. We would love to hear from you on how God is using this ministry to bless you, and we'd love the opportunity to pray for you. Just send us an email at amen@baysidechapel.org. Remember that you can stay in touch with us at any time. Just visit the App Store and search for our app at Bayside Chapel of NJ. Also, if God is using this ministry to bless you, we'd like to give you the opportunity to partner with us financially. Simply go online to baysidechapel.org or use the Bayside Chapel app and choose whatever option works best for you. Enjoy today's message.
If you have been here for less than probably 18 months, you don't have a clue who I am. I love that. If you don't know me, if we've never met, could you either raise your hand or stand up? If you don't know me at all, look at those hands. That is proof that a vision to kick people out and plant churches is a way to reach more people. You are those more people. That vision has worked. I was the youth pastor for 8 years, and I was part of that vision many moons ago to plant churches. I was part of that vision. I helped lay the groundwork that God gave to Pastor Ritter, that worked with the staff, and then the elders. Then we unrolled it to everybody, and this was like this big, hairy, audacious goal to plant churches up and down the Garden State Parkway. And I thought it was going to be so awesome for Pastor Ken to plant churches. And then Pastor Ritter was saying, no, I think you should consider it. I woke up this morning, P.S., and my wife said, oh, you're wearing Pastor Ken shoes. The most offensive thing she's ever said to me. But I digress. So I was part of that vision. And after we started saying, okay, this is the vision, we got to attack it, I was in a meeting back, I think it's room 3 back here? Back there, the elders got together, they got Pastor Ritter's son and some others to come and tell us, how do we plant churches? How do we do this thing? And so we were listening and taking it all in. And the whole time during the meeting, I'm like, I hope Ken is taking notes because this is him. He's the guy. And as we're leaving that room, Wheels, you guys remember Wheels? He had the guts to tell me, this was not a good story. He had the guts to tell me, if you plant a church, I'll go with you. And I was like, Wheels, shut your mouth. And then I come right over here. Right behind here is a microwave, and I'm right by the microwave, and Ken Oaks, God bless his heart, Ken Oaks, he's older than me, so I have to respect him. He comes to me, and he has the guts to tell me, you know what, Jason, I think you should plant the church. I had to again respect him and tell him to kindly shut his mouth. And a few months later, started praying about it and decided to say no. I told Pastor Ritter no at a planning meeting that we had over at Harvey Cedars. And then, because he's like a proud Dutchman, he convinced me to go to an assessment that I didn't want to go to with my wife, an assessment where they were telling me oh, how to plant a church. Do you have what it takes? And the whole time I'm like, I don't even know if I want to do this. And so we go on that. I had to preach in front of Dave, who's taught preaching at seminary. He's like, yeah, come and preach in front of me. Oh, that's fun. And all this type of stuff. And they had to I had to do, it was grueling. And then Ava and I felt like, you know what? This is for us. And so we started praying about it. And we said, okay, we're all in. And then Pastor Ritter gave me 2 months off to do a study leave. And I came back with a 72-page report on how this vision was going to play out. How could we effectively plant churches? And yes, last week Pastor Ritter preached on the vision to build this wall. A church wasn't just planted. A wall wasn't just built. Because words on a page don't do anything. It's when we get up and out our seats that God starts doing something. And so I had to sit there. at an assessment. You know where the vision of planting churches, that would have failed if I sat in my seat and said, good for Ken. It would have failed if I said, Pastor Ritter, thanks for praying, thanks but no thanks, I'm out. It would have failed if we came to the church and said, if the elders said a 72-page document, I ain't got time for this, I ain't reading it. There's so many ways in which this could have failed, where we could have been inactive. That's right. But let me suggest that if God has given you and us a God-given vision, it is sin to leave it in a state of theory. A God-given mission demands that we act upon it. Too many God-given visions die in a state of theory. It's our actions that move it from theory to reality. And so, yes, Pastor Ritter was just up at Wellspring preaching. I was trying to respect my mentor, and when he was like, oh, what should I preach about? I gave him a really, like a home run type passage. I was like, you should preach on, in Galatians, about the fruit of the Spirit. So nice of me. You guys know the fruit of the Spirit? That's like for a preacher, that's a home run. I was like, okay, cool. Now, Pastor Ritter, what should I preach on? And he said, how about Nehemiah 3? And I had to be, oh, yeah, Nehemiah's in the Bible. I should catch up on that. I'm going to read you some of Nehemiah 3 that Pastor Ritter so graciously gave to me as the passage to preach on. There's a whole lot of names in here, and none of them are Joseph or John or Luke or Adam. Let me read. This is the passage Pastor Ritter gave to me. Okay. This is what he gave to me. I'm going to read a good bit of this, so stay with you. Will feel pain together. Then Elishama, the high priest, rose up with his brothers, the priests, and they built the sheep gate, and they consecrated and set its doors. They consecrated as far as the Tower of 100, as far as the Tower of Hanal. And next to him, the men of Jericho built. And next to him, then Zekah and the son of Imar built. And then the sons of Hanashashah built the fish gate. They laid its beams and set its doors, its bolts, its bars, and next to him, the Meraphimah, and then the son of Uriah and the son of Herkaz, and repaired. And next to them, the Techonites repaired. This is actually a tough. But their nobles would not stoop to serve their Lord. That jumped out at me. Jeriah, the son of, and next. And they repaired the gate of that gate, and then they laid its beams and set its doors and its bolts and its bars, and next to them repaired, and then the governor of the province beyond the river, next to them Uzziah, and it goes on and on and on. And as a youth pastor, I'll tell you, one of the things I loved about this passage is there's a dung gate. I'm a retired youth pastor, so I love the dung gate. There's a dung gate. They repaired that too. We'll cut this short because it's just that over and over and over again. The passage, though, is evidence that when Nehemiah set out to build the wall, he wasn't haphazard about it. He didn't just say, today we should build it. He put it in plan. He put it in motion. They acted upon it. And it wasn't just Nehemiah. He wasn't haphazard about it. Our big thought for the morning, what I want to drill home this morning, is that a great vision requires strategic execution to produce results. You saw men and women stand up or raise their hand. That is a great vision that has produced results. In the last year and a half, you have baptized people and you have seen people come to know Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. A great vision with strategic execution produces results. And so in Nehemiah 3, we will see just how that plays out. The first thing that a great vision requires with strategic execution is coordination. It's 40 sections. This is a 2.5-mile wall. If you were to break that up, that is about 250 sections of wall for every person. It wasn't all even. It wasn't all the same. But some people built greater portions, some people less portions, whatever. But on the average, that's 250 feet of wall. Who of you is going to wake up and build a 250-foot wall today? This takes coordination. There are 17 different people groups. There's 44 individuals. You could break it up into about 41 teams of people. There are 28 variations of next to him, next to him, next to him. And it shows me that Nehemiah is intentional with his assignments, that he's not haphazard about it. This took great coordination. It wasn't just something he could wake up and just say, do, go. And so we as a church, as Wellspring Church, we have this vision. We want to reach as many people for the gospel of Jesus Christ as we can. We believe that that mission is endless. There's no limit to the amount of lives that can be reached for the gospel of Jesus Christ. So you stand before your church and just tell them, go reach everybody for the gospel of Jesus Christ. Where do you start? That's like going out and saying, just go build a 2.5-mile wall. And so for us as a church, we've adapted this phrase called pray for one, pray for one, pray for one. We take it from Luke where Jesus leaves the 99 and goes in search of the one. Seek the one, seek the lost person, seek the lost, seek the lost. And so we say pray for one every day. Wake up for one. And then what happens in that passage is when you find that one, when that one lost person comes back to Jesus, he celebrates. He's excited about it because that's the mission. And so we encourage our people, wake up with a specific name. Pray for that family member. Pray for that person you met at the coffee shop. Pray for them by name that they would come to know Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. And if I can motivate a church every day to pray for one, looking for that opportunity, I can't by myself lead everybody in Toms River with the gospel of Jesus Christ to accept that mission. But what I can do is I can motivate a church one at a time, one at a time, one at a time. Pray for one. My 250 feet of wall for us is one at a time, one at a time, one at a time. And God willing, we will lead every single person used by Jesus Christ for the message and the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that is how our people cooperate with such a message. And so the second thing is that it requires cooperation. We saw at the very beginning, it says the high priest and his priests are building a wall. One of the ways in which Nehemiah is able to motivate them is in their places of passion. He looks at the priests, and the sheep gate is where sheep and sacrifices will come through. That for them, in their role in the leadership of the country, that would be a place of passion. And so he put them in charge of a place that would motivate them. He cooperated, he knew them, and he got them to cooperate by building that section, the gate where all the sheep and the sacrifices are going to come. And the high priests weren't above helping out. And then he motivated people. The section that we didn't get to is that people were building closer to their homes. So if I was assigned a spot close to my home, I got 3 kids, Landon, Brady, named after the greatest quarterback of all time, Brady and Reagan. And if I was assigned to build the wall closest to my home, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to be motivated. Because if I am terrible at building the wall, my kids might die. And so he put them closest to their home. Number one, it would save on travel so we could get this job done and quick. And it would motivate them to do it with excellence. And so he put them, many of them closest to their homes. He invited them in. He gave them ownership of the wall close to their home, ownership of a gate that would be their passion. And you know what I'm finding out recently? Because we're in the middle of our own little building project at Wellspring. I'll get to that in a second. You know what I have found out recently? Is ownership invites opinion. There is nothing more annoying. And I say that with all the love. Like as you get people to buy into a mission, you motivate them, you give them ownership. As a leader, you better expect that they're going to share their opinion. And then your goal as a leader is to build trust. Build mutual trust where you can trust one another. Because if you're going to invite them to have ownership, you invite them to have the right to have an opinion. One of the things that we did read was these Tekenites. As he's building cooperation, did that jump out to you too, that they wouldn't stoop to serve the Lord? As a great vision is laid on somebody's heart, guess what will happen? There will be naysayers. There will be the ones that say, this isn't for me, or your vision is wrong, or something along those lines. There will be people that say, this vision is not mine, and they will just not participate. You know what the text didn't say, though? It wasn't Nehemiah saying, oh, come help us, grab a hammer, help me. That's how Nehemiah sounded in my head when I was reading it. Nehemiah didn't fight for them to participate. He embraced the naysayers as a way to build cooperation. You don't want to participate? That's on you and between you and God. And so what he didn't give them a voice. He wasn't going to allow them to discourage him, and he wasn't going to allow them to force them into the mission as a way to discourage those around them. They were naysayers, well then be gone. And it wasn't, as you build cooperation. The other thing I love, we didn't get to this section, but if you read Nehemiah and get through all of those names, you'll see that he also invited women to help out. As these families are helping out, there are families that are having their daughters and wives help out, grabbing their own hammers, because this was such a big vision that it wasn't time to get political. It was time to get to work. And all people had value. Nehemiah was able to get these people, many of them on their own dime. He didn't pay the volunteers. This wasn't a scare tactic. He motivated them with the mission. And through motivation of the mission, he got them to participate because they saw the bigger picture. This is a need right now, and we better get to work. So our mission statement as a church, Wellspring Church, is that we exist to ignite a craving for Jesus by relentlessly loving our community. That's our mission. That's what I want to motivate our people with. So when we started this church, I needed to try to build and get people wrapped around this mission to relentlessly love our community. And so one of the things that when you're planning a church, the experts will tell you that you should spend $10,000 on publication, $10,000 on advertising. And much of that money goes into the form of postcards. Send people a postcard and let them know that there's a new church in town. And I was thinking, okay, well, I get how that makes a little bit of sense. But if I'm trying to reach unchurched people, if I'm trying to reach people that no one else is reaching, here's what came into my mind. If I got a postcard about a nail salon, I don't give a rip. Because I don't care about a new nail salon. So if an unchurched person got a postcard about a new church in town, why on earth do they care? I needed to give them a reason to care. And so we took our advertising money and we gave away free gas. And I know when we did it? We did it the Sunday before we launched around 9 a.m. during church time. It was awesome. A whole lot of unchurched people came and hung out with us. And then about 5 months later, we wanted to relentlessly love our community. So we saw a need in our community that there weren't diapers for families in need. That they could get government assistance in a whole bunch of different areas, but diapers was a missing need. And so we said to our people, hey, we relentlessly love our community. Let's collect some diapers. I had 60,000 diapers delivered to my house over the course of 2 months through Amazon. That's about $11,000, almost $12,000 worth of diapers that our church said, we want to relentlessly love our community. Here's how this is going to move into action. And now we are moving into a new building. And one of the ways we're going to advertise this new building is through relentlessly loving our community, where we teamed up with Chick-fil-A. It's cool because they're Christians. And we teamed up with Chick-fil-A, and we worked a deal to give out 500 free lunches to our community as a way to say, we're here, we love you, here's a free Chick-fil-A lunch, because whether you're a Christian or not, Chick-fil-A is just good. You as a church, you value putting people on mission to reach others for Christ. You value putting people on mission to reach others for Christ. So I stole it from you. We both care about people. How will you keep people motivated with the gospel of Jesus Christ as a church? What's next for Bayside? And will it involve people? How will you motivate them to keep ownership in the project? I think one of the ways is to celebrate life change and celebrate people, because I think God is a God of life change. So that's the next thing, that it requires commendation. It requires that we might recognize people. When we're reading through that list, as you read through in your own Bibles, that you read every single name. It's name after name after name after name. Nehemiah has a lot on his mind when he's trying to build the wall, when there's naysayers, when there's attacks, when there's people that don't give into this. He's out of his own homeland. He was a cupbearer. He's away. He has so much on his mind, but guess what? He knows so many different names. And in that day and age, that is a form of commendation. That is a form of recognizing somebody. That's a form of humanizing somebody, that they were first leaders of homes. They were first. They weren't just a bank account. They weren't just somebody that could swing a hammer. They were a person. And he recognizes them and that they had deep value and deep worth. And so they repaired another section. They repaired another section. It doesn't matter if they repaired a big section or a small section. They were worth being recognized for what they were doing. Sometimes simple recognition goes a long way. Too often, whether we're in leadership or whether we're in a position of influence, too often it's just constructive criticism. Too often it's just like, oh, that was nice, but here's where you suck, and that's the list. Like, so it's all constructive criticism. What I love about Bayside is you take this to heart. Recognition fuels a sense of belonging. So when Ava and I felt called by God to leave this place and plant a church, the very first thing that Ava and I said to each other when we both were like, so like, we should do this, one of the first thing we both said to each other was, I'm glad it's not tomorrow. Because this became family. Outside of all you that stood up at the beginning, we can be friends later. You are my family. And it was hard. Because for 8 years, you guys were so encouraging to me. 8 years, you let me do the stupidest things in the world, and you were saying, okay, that's cool, do it. I mean, a few emails here and there, but overall, you were encouraging. We're coming as a church. You're coming up on 10 years of night flicks, reaching teenagers with the gospel of Jesus Christ. You encouraged me. When I came up to the elders and whatnot, I said, hey, I'm going to invite the bassist from Korn with his black makeup to come and tell people about Jesus Christ and have a concert, his band Love and Death. Okay, there were a few emails, there were a few people that said some stuff, but overall, you guys said, go ahead and do it. And that day, this stage was filled with teenagers that said yes to the gospel of Jesus Christ. You guys were always proved to be so encouraging, and that is why I never wanted to leave this place. Because you became family, and your encouragement motivated my relationship with Jesus. Your encouragement motivated and fueled me with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And therefore, when I left this place, I did not consider my job complete until somebody else was going to come and fill my Ken Carlson shoes. And Pastor Ray and I chewed on this, thought about this, prayed on this, and then we saw Brian raising up. We saw that he went to Liberty. We saw that he was all about social media, and teenagers like social media and whatnot. Like, he was going to be the perfect candidate. He did an internship, and what was encouraging to me was seeing in a young man that it wasn't just going to come and take the ministry and just keep it going, that he was going to take it to the next level. And I've seen that in Brian. I'm there in a coffee shop downtown Toms River, sipping on my coffee, and I see Brian come strolling in. You know when Brian's coming because he has his keys outside his pocket and they jingle the whole time. Like I used to sing, he just jingles his keys. So I knew he was coming. And all of a sudden, 2 minutes later comes strolling in Jimmy Garrissey. Because what we saw in Brian was a love for people. Jimmy Garrissey is now going to Liberty University, and a lot of that has to do with Brian's influence. Because our job was not going to be complete until somebody was going to take this ministry to the next level. And I praise God for Brian Prizer, who is doing just that. And that's the fourth thing that I want to encourage us with, that this mission, this vision requires completion. A job worth doing is a job worth doing well and taking it to the next level. So many times in this passage, it mentions literal nuts and bolts. It mentions beams. It mentions that they were doing every little detail. They didn't forget about the finer details. And when they're saying that, it's in the perfect tense, meaning that this job was being taken to completion. They weren't going to be haphazard about it. They were going to complete the job. As a church, as Wellspring, we value what we call endless growth. I believe as an individual that I am not exactly like Jesus Christ. It will happen when I die and get to glory, but while I'm on this earth, I every single day can wake up and say, Jesus, show me how to be a little bit more like you than I was yesterday. Amen. And so I do not believe, sure. I mean, I'm telling you guys I'm terrible, but but what I am saying is that I don't have this. You guys have graffiti coming, like confetti? That would be cool. What I am saying, though, is we don't, as a church, have it all together. I don't, as an individual, have it all together. But what I can celebrate now is, even though I can celebrate, though, what God is doing in our church and bringing it into a version of completion. About a year, what we've seen as a church, one of the hardships for our church is that we have to be a church in 3 different locations. We signed up to be a school, to be a portable church inside of Intermediate East. And that's all cool. And we had this grandiose launch. We had a lot of people. And then the summer came, and what they forgot to tell us was, oh, by the way, we don't have air conditioning. And so we literally had some people pass out in our 95-degree services. And so so now this past summer, we were at a different school with church. And then what we kind of knew but didn't know the extent of it was, oh, by the way, we have a sports dome. And so for every January and February, when we have our big track meets every weekend, you can't meet here. So what it requires is us for most of the year to meet at Intermediate East. But for the summer, January and February, we have to go to a different location. Do you know how hard it is to build momentum when you're at 3 different locations? When you're praying for one, when you're inviting your ones. I got an email last night, hey, I want to come to church. Where are you guys again? And then it happens too often. And so it was this struggle that we were facing. How do we build momentum? How we're loving the community, but we're on the run. How can we better love the community and not be on the run? And so we looked at some properties about a year ago, and we looked at 3 different properties. We said no to 2 of them, and we started talking with this pizza parlor, and we had a deal on the table, and that fell through. But then they let us come for that January and February, and we walked to the negotiation tables. I had permission from my pseudo-elder board of sorts with that Pastor Ritter leads. I had on the table permission to sign a deal for $7,000 a month. And we got to this table, and it was very Brooklyn Vinny style. And Ava was there sitting in with me, and they wanted to squeeze me for $200 more. And I probably could have made that work. But I didn't feel God leading me in that direction. And so we walked away over $200. And then 2 months later, I'm sitting in that coffee shop, and a property that we had looked at, but we were like, that owner, I was talking to him about something completely different. He comes to me and said, hey, by the way, why did you say no to our property? And I was like, well, I would have maxed out our budget. It was about $8,300 a month, and that's fair market value, but we couldn't stretch our budget like that. And then he stood up and said to me, well, I talked to my partners. I'll give it to you for $5,000 a month. I haven't told you guys I signed the lease yet. And I got up. Carly was 2 tables behind me. I was like, did you hear what that butthead just said to me? He is what? What is God doing? And then I showed it to people, and we were chewing on that. And every single person I showed the property to said, no, no, no. And it was the hardest summer of my life because I saw something that we needed. We were becoming a church with all the bells and whistles, and we were making certain things a priority that we didn't want to be made a priority, and we wanted to reach more and more people, more and more people, more and more people. We needed a stationary location as a better way to love our community. And they were saying no and no, and so finally I was like, Pastor Ritter, we have a monthly lunch together. Can we do this at this building? Can we walk through it together? And he's so good with words. He came and he looked at it, and he's like, if this isn't a home run, it's at least a solid triple. And then he started articulating the mission. He started articulating how to sell people on this, how to get people to see this. And he articulated everything I was thinking. And then I left and went on a prayer retreat that afternoon. I drove up to New Hampshire and literally on the top of a mountain started praying to God. And God moved in me, and I came back, and I had this mission to motivate people. And so then a few weeks later, the day before I left on vacation, we signed a 5-year lease. And this is a picture of where we're going to be. Our name is now on a building. 40 feet from that picture, literally 40 feet, is the street where every festival in Toms River walks by. Yeah. And the Halloween parade is going to roll right by our thing. Like, a whole lot of Christians have a whole lot of opinions about Halloween. We're going to be right outside the Halloween parade telling people about Jesus. And it's going to be awesome. So the last few months, I didn't realize when Pastor Ritter gave me Nehemiah 3 and I was inclined to be like, Pastor Ritter, what are you talking about? I didn't realize how applicable it was going to be to me personally. To coordinate people, to get people to cooperate, to recognize, to show commendations for people that are putting in time and money and energy, and to bring it to a point of completion. And so Bayside, this mission started here many years ago. And now lives are being changed that you don't even know. We prayed about it, we developed that mission, and then we executed that mission. And lives are being changed. We have brought it to completion. You have paid Wellspring all the money that you said you were going to give to us. You have brought it to a place of completion. So now my question to you is, what is next? And will it be about people? Will it be about life change? Will it be about the gospel? Will it be about putting people on mission? And so that is my challenge that I leave you with. My challenge is this, that you would talk to the pastoral staff and ask, how can I get involved in the vision and the mission of the church? Because guess what? The vision and the mission of this church is not going to do anything if you sit in your seat. The mission and the vision of Bayside Chapel is only going to move forward when you get up out of your seat, when you play the keys, when you help back there, when you say, hey, guess what? We had this vision to plant churches all up and down the Garden State Parkway. Today we get to celebrate a picnic with 2 churches. But guess what? Clap for that. But the mission is not done. You have Lakehurst, you have Wellspring, now that's a total of 3 churches. Is that all up and down the Garden State Parkway? It's not. So the vision and the mission is not complete. So what is next? Get involved, get off of the sidelines and get into action. The only way that this is going to go from theory to reality is your participation in how God uses that. And I, as your former youth pastor, am so privileged to be a part of life change every single day because you invested into a mission far beyond yourselves. Check out this video. Bayside, I actually went to the P.O. Box today and got the last check from Bayside Chapel. For the campaign that we launched, because I was there when we launched it roughly 3 years ago. And the commitment that you guys made to Tom's River, to Wellspring Church, to this thing we call church planting, has officially been fulfilled. And so now I think you guys are focused on paying down some debt, missions and things of that nature, but the portion that was committed to Wellspring Church has been fulfilled. And here's what's cool, where you can't really tell from this footage, but I'm sitting in a room where 2 weeks ago I signed a lease to take over this building, to take over this floor. And 17 months in, we're moving into a building. We've had the hardest time reaching our community when we've been in 3 different locations. But I don't think you gave money so that Wellspring Church could one day just be in a building. When I thought about how to properly thank you guys from genuinely the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of my leadership's heart, from people's hearts that don't even know you, I thought just that. You've invested not into a building, not into brick and mortar, but you've invested into a movement, into a mission, and that mission has always included people, relationships. And so in a moment here, I want to move out of this seat and introduce you to a wonderful young lady named Alicia Simmons, who's somebody that you don't know. And a year and a half ago, she didn't know Wellspring. And now she'll tell this story, how she has refound her relationship with Jesus Christ, how she's gotten involved in life group, how she's gotten involved in volunteering, how now, a year and a half ago,
ago, she wasn't even sure about this whole church thing, and now she's leading a ministry for us, and it's not possible without your investment, and your investment went far beyond just buying some equipment. It has equated to physical life change by the power of God himself. And so thank you guys, thank you guys, thank you guys, and it's my honor to share with you the story of Alicia Simmons.
My name's Alicia. I'm 26. I'm 26 years old. I've been coming to Wellspring since the 3rd week that it opened. Prior to Wellspring, a lot of different things have happened in my life. I went through a pretty bad breakup. My grandmother had died. I was stressed with just school and life and whatever. The regular stuff, anxiety, depression that many of us suffer with. And I had gone to a friend's wedding that they are Christians. They've always been Christians. And this friend of mine has always pushed it on me. And I was, no. And then Wellspring kept popping up on my Facebook feed. And I'm like, ugh. Now, I knew Jesus before this, but it was one of those things where we didn't have a close relationship. I just said the prayer that I was taught my whole life. I was in and out of Catholic churches, but nothing really cemented, whatever. I went to Wellspring the 3rd week it opened, and I sat by myself. My friend came a little bit later, but I kind of sat by myself. There were so many people there. Everyone said hello to me. It was one of those nerve-wracking things, like, what's gonna happen here? And I remember Jason talking about, I'll remember this so clearly, about being all in. That was the first thing he said. He said, you can't be one toe in, you have to be all in with your walk with Jesus. And then I remember hearing resurrection and crying. And then I remember feeling like, I can do this. I feel at home here. I feel like God has kept putting this on my Facebook page, shout out to social media, to come here because he knew that I would be comfortable here. I could find a home here, I could find family here. And so then I started going every week. I brought my mom the next week after that, and we started going together. I joined Starting Point, which was awesome, with Jason and Ava. And that helped me meet more people. I met one of my really good friends there, Courtney, who led me to another life group with Laura every Friday. It's great, you should all go. And that has led me to just a great support system, a great family, people I lean on, people that help hold me accountable, which is most important, is when I feel like I'm straying away from the gospel, from Jesus, from church, they're the first people to call me up and be like, where are you at? And I am accountable to them. And then Ava hit me with this, so like, when are you gonna start volunteering? So Ava got me involved in Guest Experience. And then from there, I got involved in announcing with Graham, the A-team. And then from there, Carly came to me and she's like, hey, by the way, I think you'd be really great at leading aisle host, so think about it. So then I thought about it for like 2.3 seconds. And now I'm leading the aisle host ministry, which is awesome. I love all my aisle hosts. Also, shout out to Kelsey, who's a 16-year-old who's also awesome. And I look up to her even in my walk with Jesus. So just things like that. And then my niece is in a church now. And after Wellspring, and being in Wellspring, I just am so grateful for the people that God has brought into my life. I'm grateful for the role models that God has brought into my life. Such Christ-like people that I get to see every day, that I get to lean on, that I get to talk to, that are praying for me and I'm praying for them. People that, again, hold me accountable. Just being in the ministry, just knowing that I'm serving God every Sunday. Because some Sundays, to be honest with you, I don't want to get up. I don't want to get up at 7:30, but I get up, I volunteer, and I'm always happy that I did. And honestly, I'm at church pretty much every weekend. You all see my face, Bayside. I hope to see your faces one day too. I'll make my way down there. But it's just amazing to see what this church has grown into. It's amazing to be in our future building. It's amazing to see how God is working through all these amazing people. And I'm just so honored and blessed and thankful to Bayside and Wellspring for what you guys have done in my life. And now when I do feel anxious or I do feel troubled or whatever, I'm always, looking to God or looking through guidance. And that is because of you, Bayside. So thank you so much. I am so appreciative. You have changed my life forever and I can never repay you. Thank you.